Hey everyone, if you've ever wondered how far loneliness can push a man, hit that like button and subscribe because what I'm about to confess happened just 3 weeks ago. I was standing in my boss's luxurious home office late at night, supposedly finishing quarterly reports, when his wife pressed a cold glass of whiskey into my hand with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and whispered, "Drink it all, you look like you need to relax." The moment the liquid hit my throat, I felt the first strange warmth spread through my veins, slow and heavy like something alive waking up inside me. I knew something was wrong, but the way she looked at me, that quiet intensity behind her lashes, made me unable to put the glass down. My fingers stayed wrapped around it even as my pulse started to stutter. Every day blurred together before that night. Wake up alone in my small studio apartment, microwave the same sad dinner, scroll through empty dating apps until midnight, then drag myself to the office where I was just another replaceable analyst. I hadn't been touched by anyone in over 2 years. The silence in my place was so loud it hurt, pressing against my chest until breathing felt like effort. Every night I told myself this was the price of climbing the corporate ladder, that one day the emptiness would be worth it. But the ache never left. It just settled deeper, turning into a constant low hum under my skin. My boss started inviting me to work from his home whenever deadlines got tight. That's how I first met Elena, his elegant, much younger wife. She'd glide through the marble hallways in silk robes that whispered against her skin, offering coffee or asking about my day while her husband barked orders from the next room. Her presence filled the house with a soft floral scent that lingered long after she left the room, wrapping around me like an unspoken promise I had no right to notice. I remember the first time she handed me a fresh cup, our fingers brushing for half a second too long. The warmth of her skin through the porcelain made my breath catch. She smiled, soft and knowing, and murmured something about how hard I worked, how tired I looked. Her husband's voice cut through from the other side of the wall, sharp and demanding, yet she stayed there a moment longer, eyes holding mine just enough to make the air feel heavier. God, I was so aware of how close she was. Inches away, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of jasmine on her neck when she leaned in to point at something on the screen. She was off limits, that this was my boss's wife, the last woman on earth I should be noticing. But my body leaned in anyway, pulled by some invisible gravity I cowled at name. I told myself it was nothing, just politeness, just the contrast between my cold, empty apartment and this warm, beautiful house where someone actually saw me. The memory of her scent clung to my clothes, and I'd sit in the dark replaying the way her robe shifted when she moved, the soft sound of her laugh when I made a nervous comment. I hated how much I waited for the next invitation, hated how my heart sped up the second his text came through asking me to come over after hours. That night in the office, with the whiskey still burning down my throat, Elena didn't step back. She stayed right there, watching the warmth spread across my face. Her hand hovered near my arm, not quite touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her. My thoughts fractured. Part of me knew I should set the glass down, excuse myself, get out before whatever this was took hold. The other part was already drowning in the way she looked at me, like I was the only thing in the room worth seeing. The warmth kept building, slow and treacherous, pulling me under, and just as I opened my mouth to say something, anything, she leaned in a fraction closer, her breath brushing my ear as she whispered my name like a secret neither of us should share. The small things started piling up like raindrops before a storm, each one soaking deeper into me until I couldn't pretend the ground wasn't shifting. Her fingers would brush mine when she passed a pen across the desk, lingering just long enough for the warmth of her skin to register like a spark that refused to fade. I'd glance up and catch the way her blouse dipped when she leaned over my laptop to check a chart, the soft shadow there pulling my eyes before I forced them away, heart hammering. She laughed at my nervous joke one afternoon, low and velvet, the sound curling around the quiet room like smoke. That laugh stayed with me hours later, replaying while I tried to focus on numbers that blurred on the screen. And the music. God, the jazz playlist she began leaving on in the background. Slow saxophone notes drifting through the air, thick and lazy, making every breath feel heavier, slower, like the whole house was holding its pulse in time with mine. I told myself it was nothing, accidental, harmless, but her eyes, when she thought I wasn't looking, They'd find me with that dark hunger, heavy-lidded and knowing. It made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't name, a pull I fought by gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles ached. She was my boss's wife, off-limits in every way that mattered. Yet the loneliness in my empty apartment waited for me each night like an old enemy, whispering that these stolen moments were the only color in my gray days. Guilt clawed at me constantly. I'd doctor home replaying her laugh, her nearness, and hate myself for how alive it made me feel. She's married, I'd repeat like a prayer, to him, the man who signs my checks and could end everything with one word. What kind of man am I becoming, letting my mind wander there? But then the nights grew longer, the silence louder, and the rationalizations slipped in soft and treacherous. It's just flirting. No one gets hurt if it stays in my head. She's probably just lonely too, in that huge house while he's always gone chasing deals. I'm not doing anything wrong. Am I? The battle inside me raged louder with every visit. 1 minute I'd swear I'd keep my distance, eyes on the work only. The next, her scent would drift past, and I'd be right back under that invisible gravity, craving the way the air thickened when she was near. I was drowning slowly, telling myself I could still swim to shore if I really tried. Then came that stormy evening. Rain lashed the windows like it wanted in, thunder rolling low and distant. My boss had rushed out for an emergency flight, leaving the house suddenly to quiet. Too empty. I was packing up my things when Elena appeared in the doorway. The thin satin slip she wore caught the low light, clinging in ways that made my throat go dry. She held out a glass of whiskey, the same one from before, her hand trembling just slightly as she offered it. I put something in it this time. Her voice was low and steady, barely above the rain, just enough to help you stop overthinking. I hesitated, the glass cool against my palm, her eyes locking onto mine with a desperation that mirrored the ache I'd been carrying for weeks. Everything in me screamed to set it down, to walk out into the storm and never look back. But the loneliness, the hunger, the way her breath hitched when she waited, it all crashed together. I drank it. The heat exploded through my veins almost instantly, spreading like liquid fire, melting every careful wall I'd built. My thoughts scattered, resistance slipping away as if it had never been solid. Before I could form words, she was there, her lips meeting mine in a rush that stole what little breath I had left. Her hands tugged at my shirt, urgent and trembling, while the jasmine of her perfume wrapped around us both, overwhelming, intoxicating. We stumbled together onto the leather couch, the storm outside raging in time with the one now tearing through me, and in that moment I knew. Nothing would ever be the same. I didn't know how quickly one night could rewrite everything. The very next time he left town, my phone lit up with a single red pill emoji. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long minute, then I was already reaching for my keys. Every time after that became our secret rhythm. He'd fly out for meetings and she'd send that tiny rate icon. I'd doctor through the quiet streets, heart hammering against my ribs, telling myself this would be the last time. I'd step inside the house that still smelled faintly of his cologne, and she'd be waiting with the glass already poured. The liquid glowed amber under the low lights, ice cubes clinking softly like a warning I chose to ignore. One sip, spreading outward until my skin felt too tight, too alive. Her fingers would brush mine when she took the empty glass, and that single point of contact sent sparks racing up my arm. The drug turned every sense into fire. Her skin felt like warm silk sliding under my palms, smooth and impossibly soft. The faint trace of whiskey on her lips mixed with something sweeter, something that made my head spin even before the second kiss. That same slow jazz saxophone drifted from the hidden speakers, lazy notes curling around us like smoke, while her breath came faster against my neck. I lost count of how many times we crossed every line I swore I'd never approach. Each visit grew more consuming, the ache sharper, the surrender deeper. I'd leave before dawn, legs unsteady, carrying the ghost of her jasmine scent on my clothes and the terrifying knowledge that I was already counting the days until the next red pill appeared. We built a dangerous little world in those stolen hours. The same leather couch, the same dim glow from the city lights filtering through half-drawn curtains, the same low saxophone melody that seemed to know exactly how my pulse raced. I'd waked angled in the feeling of her, the drug still humming faintly in my veins like a second heartbeat. For a few blissful minutes the guilt stayed quiet, drowned out by the memory of her whispered name on my lips and the way her body trembled when she said mine. But the moment I stepped back into my empty apartment, Reality crashed back in, colder than the rain that first night. Last week the fantasy nearly shattered for good. I was still upstairs when the familiar crunch of tires on gravel cut through the quiet farther early. His car. My blood turned to ice. She pushed me toward the back stairs, eyes wide with the same panic flooding my chest. Her lipstick a guilty smear across my collar that I only noticed later. We moved in frantic silence, hearts pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear them through the walls. I slipped out the side door just as his key turned in the front lock, the cool night air hitting my flushed skin like a slap. That close call left me shaking for days. Every shadow in my peripheral vision made me flinch. The guilt that had been a quiet whisper roared back tenfold. Terrifying truth, I was craving the drug almost as fiercely as I craved her. My hands trembled when I thought about never tasting that warmth again. What had she done to me? Yesterday I couldn't carry it anymore. I waited until the office was empty after hours, the same room where everything began, and confronted her. My voice cracked like thin ice when I told her I couldn't keep going. The drugging, the lies, the constant fear of footsteps in the hallway. She stood there in the soft light from the desk lamp, those dark eyes steady on mine, calm in a way that made my stomach drop. "Then don't come back," she said softly, a faint smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "But we both know you will." I walked out without answering, the door clicking shut behind me like a period at the end of a sentence I wasn't ready to finish. I haven't gone back yet. I deleted her number in the parking lot, fingers clumsy with anger and something else I refused to name. But every night when the apartment grows to quiet, the memory returns, that faint jasmine drifting through the dark, the slow burn of the drug spreading through my chest like liquid gravity, pulling me under all over again. My phone stays dark, but I catch myself checking it anyway, wondering if another red pill emoji will ever appear. The chain is still there, warm and waiting, and I'm not sure how much longer I can pretend I want to break free. So tell me in the comments, would you have drunk that first glass knowing what it would lead to? Or am I the idiot who walked straight into the trap with my eyes half closed and my heart already racing? Drop a like if you want me to share exactly what the drug did to my body and mind during those nights. How it turned every breath into something heavier, every touch into something I couldn't forget even if I tried. And subscribe, because next time I might confess whether I finally broke free, or if I'm already planning to go back for one more taste. Even now, sitting alone in my studio with the lights turned low, I can still feel the phantom warmth of that red pill spreading through my chest like slow honey mixed with fire. The saxophone melody from those late hours keeps replaying in my head, low and smoky, wrapping around my thoughts until I can't tell where the music ends and my pulse begins. Her jasmine perfume lingers on the pillow I haven't brought myself to wash. Faint but insistent, pulling me back into memories ice wore I'd bury. Part of me hates what she turned me into, this trembling version of myself who checks the shadows and still aches for the danger. But another part, quieter and more honest in the dark, whispers that maybe this is the only real thing I've felt in years. The only time the emptiness inside me felt full, even if it was borrowed and poisoned. I keep telling myself I've made my choice for today. I'm staying away. Glowing softly on my silenced phone like a secret I can't quite delete, waiting for one weak moment when my thumb hovers too long over the screen. The tension hasn't broken, it's only waiting, coiled tight in my stomach, reminding me how close her breath felt against my skin that last time, how the air between us hummed with everything we weren't supposed to want. My boss's wife, the woman whose smile could disarm any room while her eyes promised storms I had no business chasing. I traced the edge of the couch where we sat too many nights, feeling the ghost of her nearness, the way her fingers almost brushed mine before pulling back just enough to leave me starving. The guilt crashes over me in waves now, colder than the rain that soaked me the first night I walked into their world. I was supposed to be loyal, supposed to keep my distance, supposed to remember whose house that was, whose ring she wore when no one else was looking. Yet here I am, replaying the almost moments. The way her laugh would soften into something trembling when the drug started its slow dance through my veins. The heat that built without ever quite naming itself. I hate how my body still remembers the pull, like gravity shifting every time her perfume drifted closer. What kind of man lets himself be remade by stolen glances and whispered invitations he knew were wrong from the start? The answer sits heavy in my chest. The kind who's tired of pretending the ordinary is enough. I've stared at the door for hours tonight, wondering if one more message wouldn't do everything or finally set me free. The chain between us feels warm even from this distance, waiting like an open secret. I tell myself I'm strong enough this time, that the ache will fade if I just stop feeding it. But the truth is quieter and more terrifying. I'm not sure I want it to fade. Not completely, because in those drug-laced hours, with the saxophone sign in the background and her presence so close it felt like drowning in the best way, I touched something alive inside me that had been sleeping for too long. Let me know what you think I should do, because right now I'm not sure I'm strong enough to resist the boss's wife and her tempting, drugged invitation. The nights are getting longer, and the phone stays dark, but my hand keeps reaching anyway.